Hello everybody and welcome to Adventure Theory. My name is Ben. Now on this adventure we are going to run down the Mighty 5 national parks here in Utah. And if you're unfamiliar with the Mighty 5, these are locations that every adventurer should have pinned on their list. Now I'm going to run them down in no particular order, but I am saving my favorite for last. Let's go. Arches National Park is a crowd favorite, most notably for its arched rock formations and its ease of access for all abilities. For the wayward traveler who just happens to be confined to their vehicle, Arches offers a scenic drive through some truly stunning landscape and marvelous scenery. Reasons for car confinement may vary. In my case, on my first visit, I was traveling with my dog, and that is when I learned that dogs are not allowed on most trails in most national parks. But Arches Scenic Drive was truly a memorable experience and well worth the visit. Weighing in at 119 square miles, Arches is a sizable park with plenty of hiking opportunities. For the casual adventurer, Arches offers many short, well-groomed trails right off the main road that are easy hikes for most all ages and abilities. And for the more serious adventurer, Arches does have plenty of backcountry trails. Just be sure to do your research ahead of time to make sure you can acquire any permit you may need, because some of the more advanced trails do require permits. And speaking of permits, as of the summer 2022, Arches began requiring a permit just to enter the park during the summer months. You see, Arches receives over 1.5 million visitors a year, and that number is climbing, which has made the road and the trails very crowded. So just make sure you do your research ahead of time to secure any permits that you may need. And on the subject of busy parks and permits required, that takes us to number 2 on this list, Zion National Park. Zion National Park is a world-renowned destination, known for its rugged landscape, majestic scenery, and challenging trails. Zion is home to some of the most iconic hikes in the national park community, like the Narrows and Angel's Landing. Weighing in at 229 square miles, Zion is nearly twice the size of Arches, but at a staggering 5 million visitors a year, it receives well over twice the amount of visitors of any other park in the Mighty 5. And with such a limited road system, Zion is the most difficult park to access, so it's extremely important to research thoroughly before your arrival. Even the winter months, otherwise known as the off-season, can be choked with suffocating crowds at Zion. Here's a time-lapse of cars entering the park at 6:30 in the morning from the Overlook Trail. However, if you can't hit the trails because all the trailheads are already packed and there's no more parking, the 8-mile scenic drive up the canyon offers a very memorable landscape to experience. But it should be noted, if you come in the summer, the scenic drive is not open to private vehicles, it is shuttle service only. And speaking of scenic drives, that takes us to number 3 on this list, Capitol Reef. Capitol Reef bumps up in size to 378 square miles, with 1.2 million people visiting every year. And just like Arches and Zion, it does boast an amazing scenic drive that's 8 miles in through some truly spectacular landscape. Unfortunately, I'm still yet to take advantage of any of the amazing hikes that Capitol Reef has to offer. The first time I visited, I had my dog with me, and dogs just are not allowed in the national parks. The second time I visited when this footage was taken was directly after a torrential rainstorm that washed out all of the access roads to the trails, which in effect added an additional 5 miles, and I didn't have the time to commit to a 15-mile hike. But even though I was unable to hike any of the trails, I still had an amazing experience here in Capitol Reef because the landscape is just truly magnificent. I strongly recommend, if you're in the area, swing through Capitol Reef, if anything, just to do the scenic drive. It is a landscape worth seeing. speaking of a landscape worth seeing, that takes us to number 4 on the Mighty 5 list, Bryce Canyon. Bryce Canyon is the smallest of the national parks here in Utah, weighing in at a modest 35,000 square acres, which is approximately 54 square miles. But being a small park does not stop the 1.5 million people from visiting every year. Much like Arches National Park, Bryce Canyon is renowned for its fascinating rock formations. The spires of rock you see here are called hoodoos, and they are some of the largest I've ever encountered, especially compared to the smaller ones you can find at Goblin Valley. But unlike Arches, Bryce Canyon is a hiker's park. There's not much of a scenic drive, and the only easy trail is the rim trail that walks around the top. To truly get a feel for Bryce Canyon, you have to drop down into the hoodoos. And as a word of warning when hiking Bryce Canyon, these trails aren't necessarily for beginners, so you just want to make sure you're very good on your feet. Especially when hiking in the spring and fall, these trails can get extremely thick with mud and very slippery. In fact, on my last trip to Bryce Canyon, on my drive out of the park, I passed 7 rescue cars racing into the park to help out some hikers that got themselves into trouble. Bryce Canyon National Park is truly a hiker's park and an amazing landscape to experience. And speaking of hikers' parks and amazing landscapes, now we go to number 5, Canyonlands. Canyonlands National Park is the biggest of the Mighty 5, weighing in at 520 square miles with 1.8 million visitors a year. Canyonlands is divided into 3 sections: the Island in the Sky, the Maze, and Needles. Canyonlands is truly a hiker's paradise. There is options for the casual day hiker to just do short little jaunts in and out of the canyons, and there's also week-long excursions available to the more advanced backpacker. The primary reason Canyonlands tops the list as my absolute favorite is because not only can you mountain bike, take short hikes, take long multi-day hikes, but you can do it without having to see too many other people. And for me, that is the absolute best way to experience nature. But in addition to all that, Canyonlands has a scenic drive called the White Rim Trail. It's a 100-mile dirt road through the backcountry that requires a permit, as well as 4-wheel drive and high clearance specifications on your vehicle. Utah's Mighty 5 national parks are well worth putting on your adventure to-do list. You won't be disappointed. Absolutely incredible. We'll see you next time.